Aranea Lost Chapter. This is the return of the broken Geofirst at her worst iteration, only getting Heimer Plus, and Prompto is getting LD, where he gets a lot of cool stuff. Stick around and hear what I gotta say. This is my pull plan series where I break information down quickly and go over my thoughts and plans on upcoming characters and events. I do play both JP and Global, and I use my knowledge from playing in the Japanese server consistently to impart knowledge upon you all with experience and research. My goal is to help everyone make informed decisions on their own without giving them answers specifically. I think there's too many variables in the game and rosters, etc., and I believe the best help you can give someone is to teach them how to help themselves. Therefore, this is pull plans, not should you pull, not should you invest, not what should you do. I believe the latter is not a healthy way to approach the game. Only you can enter that yourself, ultimately. By the end of the video, though, ideally all the viewers will be able to reach their own conclusions. So in that same spirit, be sure to leave a comment with your plans for the event, teams, and polls. I do read all the comments, so don't hesitate to hit me up. I'm usually pretty good at responding. And if you're here, go ahead and drop me a like on the video. Subscribe to my channel if you aren't already. It helps out tons. You become a channel member for emotes. And to make sure I always reply to your comments. And be sure to check out the Ranting Hour, my weekly stream where I talk about more in-between stuff that I don't feel like making videos for. It's pretty unfiltered and fun, and I like messing around with chat, so come through. It's a good time. And check out the VOD if you haven't already. So off the bat, I'm not going to be talking about Aranea. All she's getting Heimer Plus. Who cares about the spread? It blew her if you like her. You have already made your choice, but I'm not going to. No matter how much I used her, I don't know what her C90 looks like. So I'm not going to just throw blues away now that I could invest in. Now, I'm not going to play in the future. Aranea is just going to be benched. Maybe a call. Maybe I'll use her in Lufenia. I don't know. Prompto is the focus here over, and he got the juice. I'm actually really surprised at what he got, and I didn't know this at the time in JP, so this has been a trip for me as well. I kind of convinced myself to get him, but we'll go over that later. Prompto already did a bunch of things, and now he does even more things with his LD. He gets a new buff from his LD that he does start the quest with, but it gives the party HP regen, attack up, brave damage up, and he gets a personal HP and brave damage up when he's attacking a broken target. It also has a stacking mechanic, and he increases these stacks by attacking a target with the break mark, and if you're not familiar with Prompto, he triggers his break mark on the enemies if on a previous turn an ally breaks or attacks the broken target. So if Prompto hits one of them with the break mark, his stacks go up to 4, and while it's 2 or higher, Prompto will do a follow-up like Yang or Core style after an ally's turn. So this makes him a follow-up unit, but it's not as simple as Core or Yang because he needs to get a turn again to get this buff back up. But the attack, thankfully, is really, really worth it. It's a double Brave plus HP with Splash. It does instant break, it batteries the party, and inflicts 70% attack down, which is pretty fat. Keep in mind though, this will only happen 3 times until Prompto's next turn. He does need to build the stacks back up, but this is pretty simple to do. On top of that, he recovers both of his skill uses, so you can really open up with using both skills and the pop LD again, and you can get a nice loop going. If you need to press his Brave and HP, go ahead, but I don't think they're that necessary, although his HP plus, I believe, the overkill on the break mark target ignores defense, and the Brave Plus is a battery with the attack down, so situationally, do what you need to do. His calls are nothing competitive. If you need a dodge, I guess you could use his base call, and his Heimer Plus is Unity, and he has a selfish split if you blue him, so not the greatest blue in my opinion, because he's probably not hitting those caps. He does rerun during C90, and he gets better stuff, but really, I think now is Prompto's prime compared to a C90, because everyone's kind of broken in C90, and the game's really easy around then. And on that JP banner, he came with Noctis's rework and BT plus, etc. So I don't think that's too attractive of a banner now. So if you really want Prompto, I think now's the time to get him. For my analysis, Prompto's strengths are that he does so much stuff. Like really, I want to sell him on his orb coverage alone. Not even his orb coverage, but just being good in fights in general and being that character you can use if you don't have any other options. So let me go down the list. Bane's Lufenia. Upcoming, he can break the targets in the off turn and get them there and help us satisfy the orb. Shulk's Lufenia, that is a double skill recovery orb because Prompto does that on his LD. Shadow's Raider, you can either use ignore defense or dodge. Prompto does it both. Kane's Intertwined Will that needs range damage. The Saw's Mission Dungeon where you need to break and you need to crit. Fran's Chapter Lufenia where you need to do range damage. He tags on to other characters. Keep in mind, this is like 3 months of usefulness, and then he gets a C90 right after in the first month. So then you get him again and you can do whatever you want from there. His buffs are now competitive. I think he's got, what, 90% attack overall? Nobody knows the difference between 70 or 90 anyways. But on top of that, he's got brave damage up. So I think that's around the same as Agrius, I want to say, in terms of buffs, which isn't stellar, but decent. Dodging attacks and attack down is also pretty handy in the right setup, because bosses do not always have guaranteed hit, and when they do hit you, they won't be hitting as hard. Weaknesses, he can't solo support, which why are you doing that anyways? And his damage isn't the greatest, so you need to obviously pair a real damage dealer with him, and he can't turn steal forever with Prompto. He does need to get turned, so he's best off with people who are not turn stealing, and Prompto's turns are cycling around. Additionally, if you can't manage to break bosses or you're trying to do Brave Gain stuff, Prompto isn't the best option for that because you kind of need to do just straight up damage. Guaranteed hit, cleanse, or bosses that just hit too hard in general will kind of defeat the purpose of dodging or attack down, but these are situational at best. Prompto is probably at his best helping you solidify a win, but he's probably not going to carry anything. I listed his useful fights earlier, and it's really more than average, so if you're looking for longevity or when you might be able to use someone, Prompto is definitely checking that box. But if you don't have the good team behind him, then he's not going to really do anything, so that should probably be a bigger priority. And if you're stuck on a fight in the first place, just pull. I mean, the unit might be better than Prompto in that situation anyways. The Lufenia itself is different than on release. It finally doesn't absorb a billion elements like it did on release. And the orb is to do crit damage, and it's +1, it's range damage +1. So it's still kind of selling RNA a bit, but they still have the mechanic where they gain brave and they need a crit to be broken. And if your units aren't hitting critical damage, then they can't get through it, which can be very obnoxious. Additionally, they ignore HP damage reduction with some of their fights, and Zach, same voice actor, funny, with synergy here, and they just eat through his HP damage reduction and his other stuff, which was annoying. And if you got double tapped on last hand, I felt that, but you can dodge the attack, which is pretty funny. So Galuf can work here, for example, or maybe 8. Regardless though, you need to give them at least one turn before, I think it's like 79%, or they're going to get a huge HP damage reduction, and I think they frame their turns as well. I don't know, I don't remember exactly, but they need to get at least one turn before you turn them. Then you're good to go. Crit and range +1 means you might at best be stalling the orb, but if you bring range units, you might be better off. So good units, maybe Cypher as a call, maybe Cypher in party if you're buffing him enough. Setzer has range on his red card, and rainbows will help you cut through stuff and maybe crit. Barrett, unironically, with his 100% crit up and range damage itself, he's actually a very decent unit for hitting this orb. Prompto, obviously Aranea, even though she's kind of a mess right now and her power is way less in comparison to better units, she's obviously viable here with her Vital Crusher debuff. Frey is a god here, and he's what carried me through this fight in JP. Trey can solo carry the orb just by his off turns ticking the orb. So there's options. It's just this fight is really punishing if you don't play around it correctly. Kimahri is also useful. You can blind their attacks and also do range damage. So there's options here. It's just they might not be conventional for what's considered meta. I'm pretty sure you can Aphmau range through this too with enough finesse, and the orb does go down and come back at some point. So playing around those thresholds is really, knowing the boss is really the key to figuring out this fight. It took me a bit in JP, but now I think I can understand it sufficiently. My plans for this event, which you've all been waiting for, I think I'm going to try and ticket Prompto. I have built up my stash from Sync, and I have some left in summon boards. I still need to do Reigns boards at the time of this recording, so I can throw all my tickets at this banner. Hopefully I can get Prompto. I think he'd be interesting to try out at least, because I never really used him at any of his tuning passes, so I want to try it. And the orb coverage in the future just allows for a different take on the fights than what I did in JP. My JP team for this fight was Zach, who was synergy, and Bart's, and for Bart's green to help boost my damage, and Trey to handle the orb, and I just had to time things well. And they do get really thick in the fight, so Zach's ignore defense was crucial, and then Bart's just helped us do more damage, and I ended up clutching it out after a couple tries, but that was pretty fun to work through. In my GL team, I'm thinking Prompto, obviously if I get him, Barrett, sorry, just had to inhale the copium, and a third, if I get Ace's BT along the way, I'd run him here. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe Ishtola or another delayer or something, but yeah, should be pretty straightforward with those two in the party. Synergy, obviously, or maybe I'll do an LD only, but Prompto and Aranea run to just kind of send Aranea off. We'll see how it goes when I get there. And that's all I got. So again, be sure to like the video on your way out, subscribe if you have not already. Let me know your plans in the comments. Any questions, feel free to drop them. I'll see you guys on the event. I'm ready to throw my tickets and try out Prompto. Yeah, that's it. Catch you guys later. Peace.